you. Hi, my name's Emily Sullivan, and I have Tourette syndrome, a neurological disorder which makes me make sounds and movements I can't control called tics. Oh! Fuck you! There we go. I was in the emergency room on October 25th. These are not even. There we go. I was in the emergency room on October 25th, and then I was thrown into the hospital for 12 days, even though they said 3 or 4. So that was nice. When I was in the emergency room, I had 2 attacks, and the worst possible thing that could happen, happened. They restrained me. Now, just so we know kind of what the scene is, the emergency room is packed, and they're not allowed to turn me away. They say I have to be under supervision, and I have to be in the emergency room. So I'm in like a little hospital bed in the hallway, and then I finally got a neighbor on the other side of the hallway, and we're both being watched by a security guard, and it's this Korean kid. He's like a Korean, I think he's a medical student, I don't know. And he and I, like, we hit it off, like, we were good friends, like, I was, you know, prepping him for, like, what, like, stuff he's gonna have to expect at, like, in the hospital, and telling him, like, no, you can't have your phone there, and he's like, I can't have my phone there? I'm like, no, you can't. So I was like, hey, like, you've been great. I want to shout you out in one of my videos. And I was like, what do you want to be called? And he's like, Barack Obama. And I was like, cool. So Korean Barack Obama and I were in the hospital, the emergency room together. We both ended up hospitalized, but in different places. I told him, I said, hey, I have these episodes. They're called pseudo seizures. You know, I'm going to just start convulsing randomly. And it's just because I have Tourette's, and like, don't worry about it, but it's going to happen. And he's like, oh, okay. So he was chill with it, and I had an attack, and immediately staff came over, and I was punching myself in the chest, and they just started, like, holding me down. And I have PTSD. You can't hold me down. You cannot do that. Like, literally, I've gone to rehab for PTSD. Like, I have bad PTSD. I'm getting a service dog to help with it. You can't mess with me. And they're restraining me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that could be going on right now. I'm in an emergency room. It's overstimulating, and I can't tick, and they're holding me down, and it's scary, and I hated it. And I have an emergency band that mentions that I have tic attacks, but it didn't matter. They paid no attention to it. Then I ended up hospitalized. I had my first attack the night that I got out of the emergency room in the morning, and then went straight to the hospital upstairs to like the psych ward. And I was there for, 12 days. My first night, I started having an attack. And the attack lasted for probably 5 minutes. And all of a sudden, one of the nurses rushed in with a needle. And she was like, hold her down. And I was like, what the is going on? And they started holding me down. And on this couch, by the way, I'm on a couch in the day room. They started holding me down, and she just injects this fluid into it. And she's like, and she told me it was like pushing maple syrup in because it was such a thick liquid. And it hurt. I've never had an injection hurt like that before. It felt like she was just injecting fire into me. And so, like, I had a big bruise on my deltoid, and it was awful, and I was like, I'm gonna sue you. No, I'm just kidding. I never said that. And I was like, what the heck did you do that for? And she's like, it's a seizure lasting more than 3 minutes. We have to sedate you. And I'm like, it's not a seizure. They're tic-related convulsions. Like, you can't just sedate me. So, side note, they can apparently. So they sedated me, and I fell asleep really quickly. I was like, okay, I'm really tired now. And they're like, okay, we're going to bring you to bed. I'm like, I'm not going to make it to bed. And they're like, no, we're going to bring you right now. And I'm like, no, I'm going to sleep now. And they're like, damn it. The next day, I had another attack. And my mom brought my weighted blanket during visiting hours so that I would have it. So I had my weighted blanket now. And I had an attack, and I fell on the ground. And I had to have a fall risk band because, you know, I kept falling. I had an attack, and again, they started restraining me to the ground, like pinning my arms and legs in place, and it's scary, you know, like that's terrifying. They're shouting, they're like, get help. And I was like, no, just get me my weighted blanket. So I just laid there like a starfish with my weighted blanket on me, just kind of spazzing occasionally. I looked like a freak. I was in a hospital though, so I wasn't the craziest one there. And then they decided that I was a danger to myself, and so they prescribed me a one-on-one, which is where you have some random person who's signed up to work a 12-hour shift at the hospital just follow you around within an arm's length reach from you. So sometimes I'd get bored and I'd just like walk around in circles around the table and make them walk with me. Sorry, it was a really dumb game. But like if I shower, like they have to be right outside the shower. And so I would just sing Chinese pop songs. I'd be like, 我爱你，爱着你，祖上老鼠爱大米，散落来我心间，我们的... Okay, anyways, yeah, and so they're just like, I hate this job. I think I burned through like 4 nurses the whole time I was there, as in like people left their shift early because of me. Which is like, you shouldn't be difficult. You shouldn't be a dick to people, but I was. So sorry about that. Anyways, hospitals, really bad with dealing with Tourette's. And it's frustrating because the fact that we know that hospitals are bad at dealing with Tourette's also means that it's kind of a reflection of our society, that a lot of people just are kind of unaware or just don't want to deal with the actual problem. So that's frustrating. It was one of those times that instead of being like, yeah, I have Tourette's, that's fantastic, I'm like, wow, I wish I were dead. Sorry, this was kind of a glum video. But anyways, that's what they did in the emergency room. Bye.